Unaelewa?
Kila kitu kiko sawa?
Maybe hiyo swali nikuulize wewe. Sababu mimi nawapigia simu na mshiki simu.
Yaani nimekataa kula eti kisa eti. Tatizo nataka nidekeze.
Log on to the KBC website at www.kbc.co.ke to get the latest breaking news, entertainment, sports, politics, lifestyle or business trends from Kenya and around the world. Never miss new episodes from your favorite TV shows, reruns and movies. Just stream online or watch live on your YouTube channel at KBC Channel 1 TV shows. For the day's biggest stories, trustworthy news and family entertainment, log on to KBC Channel 1. Watch what you want anytime, anywhere.
Nuria, I can't do anything. It was already a big risk that they took those x-rays while you're pregnant. Radiation might have affected your baby.
No, I never want to see him again!
Terribly sorry, but you see, it's a great risk for me to have you as a witness.
Madam, your husband is already dead.
No! No!
Lini mvuvi akawa dereva? Dau limekushinda huko kijijini, umekuja kusumbua watu huko mjini.
Wewe aiso, kwa hivyo kombo wewe umemea pembe.
Kwa hivyo ukizidi kunidanganya. Unaelewa?
Kila kitu kiko sawa?
Maybe hiyo swali nikuulize wewe. Sababu mimi nawapigia simu na mshiki simu.
Yaani nimekataa kula eti kisa eti. Tatizo nataka nidekeze.
Girls can't settle down until me get my herbs to burn. We just can't settle down until me get my collie to burn. She don't call anymore, 'cause I'm so fucking by you. Have you found somebody new? Turn it back as fast as you can. Yeah. Roots reggae music up in your bloodstream. Red, gold and green. Red, gold and green. Every corner, every lane, every scheme. Red, gold and green. Red, gold and green. Yes enough you know what me mean.
And with the petition already filed at the Supreme Court, knowing fully well that the Apex Court has exactly 14 days to listen to the submissions, the prayers made, the respondents, and finally make a verdict on the 5th of September. And just going by 2013 and 2017, which has set precedents on election petitions, we know that this could go either way. But just how are Kenyans managing, the anxiety or even their emotions in this time? Much as elections was already completed, but it's still an ongoing process going by what is currently happening in the country. This is what you're set to dissect with my guest at this hour, who is James Mwangi, a counseling psychologist as well as a transformational coach. Karibu sana to the programs, James.
Nashukuru sana.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Now, even just before we go to what we really want to talk about, how to manage the emotions, anxiety, society. Let's just start from the top. Let's put this discussion from where it all began. And I just want to get your general assessment on how this elections was conducted, just basically how you saw it, and perhaps comparing to the previous elections.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And I feel that this is a very timely discussion that we're having.
Yes.
And especially in a time when most of the people out there are actually anxious, awaiting what the court is going to say, how they're going to rule. And coming from where we have come from in terms of the history of this nation, time since immemorial, we're coming from a place of being traumatized, because of the case scenario, talk about the post-election violence and all that. And most of the people out there were actually anxious, looking forward to this, And we have seen most of them, because the electionary, the campaign itself actually took longer than it was expected. Remember, some began campaigning way 2 or 3 years ago, and that tells you that we have been in this mood for such a long time. And what happens is that most people grow anxious with time, and especially when they anticipate, the results of all this. And I pick that we have come a long way, and we have done way much better than it was expected. Looking to by borrowing from what happened earlier on, in the previous election, we can see a bit of improvement. And I'm very happy, in fact, with the Kenyans, how we conducted ourselves.
Sure.
We never thought that people would be this calm and collected, and also being in a space whereby they actually grown over time and they're able to manage the emotions in a good way. Though there's still some groups, some people who are equally affected, because our biological makeup is totally different for different people, and how we cope with some of these experiences, it will be totally different for different people.
Exactly.
Yes.
And let's just stick there a bit with how really Kenyans conducted themselves. And you've raised a very, important point there, that it's quite different when you look at the 2022 elections compared to even 2013 and 2017, even in just in terms of patience, as well as the various forms of violence that were experienced here and there, just except for some isolated cases here and there, but largely it was so different. And even looking at the patience that Kenyans exercise, in fact, as it turns out, is that this is the time where we really waited so long for results. 6 days from Tuesday up until Monday. But Kenyans were just put.
They were really easy with it.
What would you attribute this to?
It's good that we also get to appreciate that it's kind of, people are really worn out. We are coming from the season of COVID-19. And looking into it, this has really weighed them down in terms of economic capacity, finances and all that. And all that people want to is to go back to their new normal. As much as, yes, we're trying to go back to the old normal, it has been a bit difficult. And here with the campaigns, it can be a bit exhausting, And we can also say that there is also some sort of growth in terms of their awareness. When you get to listen to some of the governors, like one who was saying, we should not kuweka hii siasa kwa roho tuweke kwa mapafu. And I think people are able to now understand that there's also life beyond politics, because earlier on you find that you are really swayed away by the campaigns, by the politics, and people really take it to heart, and to a point whereby they were so aggressive, fighting one another. But I'm happy that we are a bit accommodative, and we're able to appreciate one another with the difference in terms of the opinions that they have, supporting one particular party from the other. And in fact, this has also trickled down to the family setup. When you get to find that, say, a spouse is supporting a totally different party from their spouse, and the kids in that particular environment, they also have their favorite candidate. That tells you that you have really grown, and that's something that we really need to commend the Kenyans for. Yes.
But also, what does this say about our democracy? It is really so different. In fact, oftentimes, and majorly, this elections has really been talked about as an issue-based kind of election. So there was a keen interest in just listening to what each candidate was bringing forth and the kind of promises they were giving to Kenyans.
Totally.
unlike how it worked and the previous elections. So again, also when you look at our democracy and really how we are growing into it, could also this be a factor? Because when you look at more developed countries, elections 1 day, 2 days, it's a done deal. For us, you're still in August since when the month began, but you're still on the election mood and season and period.
And that tells you that we have a long way to go. Why? Because like I was sharing with some friends, telling them that this should be just a 1 day, 2 days affair, and we are back to doing our stuff. But you find that we are still there, and we still have the baby steps, you know. And looking at this country, we are not yet there in terms of you know, growth and all that. In some mature democracies, we are still growing. You know, we are trying to find our footing. In some mature democracies, you find that, you know, in terms of technology, how they conduct themselves and all that, it's up there. But we have seen that as much as, yes, we appreciate them for where they are, they equally face some challenges. Because remember, like in the US, when we had the elections, we could see that the transition was not easy. Telling you that this comes with their own dynamic situations and challenges. Same case applies to Kenya. And maybe this is something that we should also borrow from those who we consider to be our mother in terms of where we should be in politics. And if we're able to continue on the same trend, with the same awareness, with the kind of investments that we saw being put in place, and especially for this particular season, then say in the next election, it will be much, much better. Yes.
Things could at least change.
Oh, yeah, totally.
As we move.
Yes.
I mean, again, when you look at the emotions, when you look at Kenyans' expectations, because again, also expectations would lead to anxiety. What you expect will lead to, you know, to you being anxious or not, depending on how you look at it. But also, when you look at the trends in terms of the voter turnout, and you slightly alluded to it in your previous comment therein, in terms of you know, Kenyans were just wanting to go back to normalcy. Let's just get back to how things used to work and be in the country. But also, when you look at the turnout that we've really seen in these elections, again, compared to the two previous ones, this one has really gone down from about 86 to 78. In fact, on the latest opinion polls, they had attributed it to at least rise to about 80, but that hasn't been the case. You're talking about 64, 65%.
Way too low.
Way below even average, I should say. So can we say that Kenyans have gotten to a point whereby liwe liwalo?
Well, yeah, that's possible. And for majority of the people, you find that they don't care attitude in a way. Because I could look at where I was, you know, where I did my voting. And the turnout was quite low. Like in my line, we are usually, you know, quite many. And we require 2 slots, you know, where we do cast our votes. But this time around, it was only 1 line. That tells you that a majority of the people tended to keep off. And what happens is when you are in a particular situation for such a long time, you tend to get weary, you get tired. And some have actually said that, you know, we are employing these people to go make a living, yet they don't have our interest at heart. And for that particular case scenario, you find that most of them, they are not really willing to be part and parcel of it. And that tells you it's quite a dangerous thing. They always say that if only the people knew how much power they have in terms of, you know, making decisions and all that, upholding or rather placing those leaders up there, then they'll make a lot of change. Probably this is communication, you know, to the leadership that we are not aware.
Is a form of communication.
Yes, because you know what we always say, you can communicate either verbally or through what you do, how you conduct yourself, non-verbally through the actions that you take. And this should actually be a wake up call for the leaders, even for the next government that is coming to place, that people are no longer the old guys that you used to have there before. These are not the same people that you could actually entice them with some unga, with some goodies, you know, with some cash that you like dish out to them, and you tend to think that, you know, they're going to vote for you. In fact, I could hear most of them, because there was a lot that was happening, or rather taking place. You know, some saying that, wachana na huyo ni ATM. You know, they come to us, they give us our money, and we go. And it is quite unfortunate. Why? Because we have seen even the leaders, you know, getting to hospital, getting actually very bitter out of the investment that they had put into that. But it's some communication to the people up there that it's no longer a walk in the park, that people are now more aware. They really understand what they want. And for them not to turn out, it could be them communicating that they need a change, and leaders who actually consider it to their needs. Yes.
And I mean, and we'll get more deeper into the expectations and emotions as we momentarily move with this conversation. But just let's stick there a bit, and let me also get you, just pick your mind on particularly how detrimental this might be moving forward. Because again, also when you listen to a good number of analysts, just going by the trend, as you've said, it has really been going down for the past 3 years. So when you look at that, in your mind it rings a bell that perhaps 2027 we might even be looking at 40 or 50.
Yes, and the most unfortunate thing it will be in such a case scenario, by you not voting, you're also voting in someone else. Okay, and this is where we say that we need to actually practice our democratic right, to participate in the elections. Why? Because if I don't participate, then I'm also giving a chance to someone who is not capable of delivering, up to my expectations. And we're also very good when it comes to complaining, saying that person A and B, we actually voted them in and they're not performing. Yet you never participated in the elections, and it would be very unfortunate if this would be the trend. And that tells you that if this happens, then we might miss out on getting some very qualified, competent leaders that we are actually there, and that we have some people who can actually lead us towards where we are supposed to be in terms of developments and all that. And if we shy off from doing that, then that would be a big challenge. All right, so I think we should actually come out and participate. But if we continue with the same trend, then we might miss out on some top-notch talents in terms of leadership. Yeah.
Well said. Now, we had a total of 16,000 candidates for the various elective positions, and we have just slightly below 2,000 elective positions, and we come all the way from the president, governors, the senators, women rep, all the way to the MCAs. Slightly just below 2,000. So we're looking at 14,000 persons who really obviously didn't manage to get to any position. That could be stressful. Knowing fully well that you have invested your time, money, human resource, talk about any form of resource. And just as you said, there are those that really began campaigning even way before, the mandated campaign period. How do you manage this? 14,000 is a really big number.
And you see, this is not just a number. These are people. These are human beings like you and I. And you see, the notion is, this is a leader, they have the capacity to cope up with the issues. And let me tell you that a majority of these people are really going to sink deeper if they don't get that help in terms of their mental well-being. And this is where we say that, I normally ask this question, if this is our hero, then who is their hero in terms of the support system that they get? Because normally we think that they don't have the needs that we have, where they are not affected, when it comes to this. And you see, with politics, this is one of those competitions, if we can say so, that the second, those in the podium finish, and especially the first runners up, they're never appreciated. So if you got the second position, then that means you're not going to get that title that people are really looking for. And having, or rather attaining that title of Mheshimiwa, that is what they are looking for, and especially with the privileges that come in. Not forgetting the kind of an investment that they had made. Talk about the money that they have put into it. Making all those advertisements, doing the placards, doing all that, the media and all that. It is quite an investment for them, and this goes down the drain. Remember, most of them has also they have made a lot of investment when it comes to their social capacity, our capital, and making friends. And I was telling some other group that they were used to being given the first opportunity to speak, say, in a gathering, when they go to church or the places of worship. As much as they are not, they don't participate in that particular, they are not of that faith. They are called upon, Mheshimiwa, come say hi to your people. And you see, they are placed in such a space where...
Mheshimiwa, just because they are contesting for a seat.
That, and that's why they really want that. Why? Because, in some of these positions, it comes a lot with some goodies. Talk about the escorts, the riders and all that, freeways, some privileges that come about. And when they miss out on this, then this equally affects them. Remember, most of these people, we have held them with high regards, and most of them were fair. And we have Mheshimiwa aliyesimama, aliyetimuliwa and they come in one, you know. And this is why we need to share a lot of compassion with them. Why? Because they are really affected with that. The investments in terms of the emotions, because most of them, this was they had put a lot of emotions into it, and by being denied this, you know, this will really affect them. Remember, most of them also coming from families, and out of the politics, out of what has been happening during the campaign season, the relationships have been compromised. Why? Because maybe some money that was supposed to be put into the family affairs has been directed towards the campaign. So telling you that it's not only in terms of the money that they put into the campaign itself, but also the resources in that family. You have heard of those that have sold their family investments in terms of maybe some buildings, some vehicles, to ensure that they fund, you know, their campaigns. So these people have been affected in so many ways. Those who have lost, and when you talk about the 14,000, this is not a number, just a number. These are human beings who have emotions, and they're equally affected by this particular loss.
But again, you really mentioned something that I really want us to just stay there a bit again, that in the gatherings or even in churches, whether they've actually gotten those seats or not, just because they are contesting for those seats, they would be given the podium to go speak, and always has priority. When you go to such gatherings, even there would be specific seats set for them.
Labeled.
Whether you come late or early, this is just specifically from Heshimiwa. So do you think also as a society, as a community, we hold them too much in high regard? Because again, when they lose those privileges of speaking, you know, in church gathering, just go under the bridge. So have we put them so much in high regard such that when it happens the contrary, then they can't even pick themselves up?
Yes, and you know, the reason why we do that, it was because we also want to have some goodies in return, and especially
so it's
when
a give and take.
Exactly, you know, and the reason why we are giving them those opportunities is because we are also trying to create a rapport, build a rapport, you know, with them. Why? Because once they clinch that position, then that means we don't require to go through the PA, you know, when we want to have access to their office, but we have a direct line, you know, to them. And as a people, as their followers, we also contribute a lot to how they experience, and especially with where we place them. You know, when they come to church, and at this particular moment, we are praising them, we really recognize them, but come next week after the elections, then they are nowhere to be seen, and we no longer appreciate them. And you see, some can actually be quite interesting, and especially where you know someone has actually lost, and you still refer to them as Mheshimiwa. And this actually adds more salt into
bow before them.
Mheshimiwa umefika, we really appreciate you, you know, have your seat. And you see, they are still dealing with the loss. Instead of actually supporting them and being their safe space to deal with the issues, we also contribute to how they are faring on.
So it means we also need to change our tact in how
it's
we
very
deal
important.
with them.
It's very important, because in most cases what happens is we as a people, at times we don't appreciate the pain that the other person is going through. Okay.
We're not empathetic.
We are not empathetic. We don't share compassion with them. We are not even, we don't provide that healing space that they require. But we are there laughing at them, you know, telling them, you know, Mheshimiwa, this is what you didn't do right. Mheshimiwa, you know, if you included me in your campaign team, probably things would be totally different. If you heed into my advice and all that, my guidance, probably things would be totally different. And at that particular time, you know, and I know we are going to go through the stages of loss. At that time, all they want is some peace of mind. And I've seen most of them, you know, just taking some time off, you know, say go to some place where they can be able to unwind and also recollect as much as they try to get back to the same level they were before the campaigns began.
So then also, as their supporters, as you're mentioning, how then do you offer them this help? Because again, also in this election, we've really seen a good number of these leaders conceding defeat way early, even before announcements are made. We know that IBC had provided the portal, and so people could access the portal, and you could clearly know, even if you're a candidate, you could know where you are. So could we also say that this part of, the conceding is also part of just agreeing and accepting that indeed I have lost, and even after that, how do you start moving forward?
You know, as we experience different issues, experiences, challenges in life, there's a way that we do respond. There's a group that is so good when it comes to fighting, you know, and for them, they are they're hands-on, you know. You never voted me in, then I'm going to take back the tank, you know. If it is if it is some kids that are sponsoring in school, then that comes to a stop. And you find that they are so aggressive when it comes to defending themselves. There's also a group that is so good when it comes to taking a flight, and this is running away. And probably the ones who they really concede early enough, it will be a way of trying to deal with the issue.
Just hold it there.
Yes,
hold it there.
It's okay.
I'll just take a very quick breather. When we come back, we explore more of that, as well as we also go through the different stages of losses and how to manage that, not just for the candidates, but also just for the supporters as well.
That's okay.
All right, time for that breather. When we come back, we explore more of those issues. Stay put.
The mighty will fall.
Driver! The members of Contra Unit! How have these guys not even been suspended after what they did? Oh my God! Oh my God! Get some help out here! No! There's global gamers involved. Another victim, this time the world champion. Where and how will this be stopped?
Your world is gonna crumble when you reach the top of the mountain.
Mbona uko hivyo? Kumetokea nini hapa? 1, 2, 3. Mpo wengi sana.
Sisi ni panya. Sisi ni panya.
Mmekuja kuchukua watoto wangu?
Hapana mama ndege. Tulitaka kuelewa kwa nini unachukua mbegu kiasi kinachogawanyika kwa 2 tu.
Welcome back, and I'm still holding court with my guest. That is James Mwangi, who is a counseling psychologist as well as a transformational coach, still exploring our conversations on really how to manage post-election grief and anxiety, given the fact that we are still in that process of matters to do with elections. And before we took that break, James, just before we go to the losses, let's continue just understanding very quickly, the concession bit, because like we said earlier, this is an election where we've really seen candidates concede too quickly. Taking it just as is.
Yes.
It's okay. We move.
Yes. This is we had said that it's good that we get to appreciate that they're also humans, and the way that they respond to it, it will be like how you do it or how I do it, depending on our biological makeup and of course a number of other factors like the support system. And you see there's that group that is very good when it comes to fighting, and they're very machismo, they're hands-on. You see them running to the court, they're like, we need to do a recount with the votes and all that, and it's allowed for them to deal with the laws that way. There's also that group that is so good when it comes to taking the flight, and for them they just want to do away and to be as far away as they can with what is happening around. And you see some may actually consider them to be those who are not really strong in terms of even managing their emotions, but that's okay. And we have seen some actually concede quite early, even before we are through with the counting and all that. And for them it serves the purpose. There's also another group that is so good with numbing, and we say for them they just hold on, they're just quiet. They don't even get to share about the issues that they go through. They don't get to share about the experience that they had with the elections, and for them it's just they want to keep off, and just stay with themselves. They don't want any interaction with other people. And at times we just consider them to be antisocial. And we are like, who you? He doesn't want to interact with other people. He's not a man of the people. And it is allowed, all right? Because that's how they get to manage their issue. And there is also another group that is so good when it comes to replaying the issues, the experiences that they went through. And for them, all that goes through their mind, and you get to hear them verbalize. Even when they are not holding a conversation with other people, it will be what the returning officer did to them, what the particular person, say a certain group of people during the campaigns, what they did to them. And for them, they just keep on replaying that, and it's just like a cow, chewing cud, where they have to bring back the thoughts, and the experiences that they went through. And this is where we need to appreciate that everybody is biologically, they're biologically different in terms of even how they cope with the situation. And like I had said earlier on, it also depends with how much exposure they had with it, to some extent, how much emotional investment that they had made into it. Because there are some who sleep, they do sleep, they do eat, they do talk, politics. And for them, it's a day in, day out affair. And if they're not careful, then this can actually disorient them to a big extent whereby they can't lead a normal life. And that's why we need to appreciate them for who they are. And of course, offering the necessary support.
Yeah, so,
yes.
Just going by what you've said, are this also part of those stages of loss?
When you talk about
a bit different,
they are part of it, and this is what we say, and we are going to see where they come in. We normally say that any loss, we do experience the grief, and this is the emotional attachment to it, how we deal emotionally, the way that the loss actually manifests. You might think that the loss is not the same as the loss of an election is not the same as losing someone who is significant in your life.
I'm so sure, really don't think. Just move. You lost the seat. You
just move on with life.
You will try again. Maybe if you don't, then
they don't get to appreciate that. And I also want to think of that person who has actually lost their phone. Right? Or somebody who lost their vehicle, say it was stolen, or even some investment, say the demolitions of the houses, say where we need to do some developments. And we tend to think that this is just a normal occurrence where, life is just happening. And the truth of the matter is that this is a loss just like any other. So when you see a politician...
So just hold it.
Yes.
Let me get it. So you're saying that the loss of an election, losing a seat, even just an MCA seat, could be or is equivalent to losing a loved one?
It is. The same case with divorce, separations, even relationships, the same manifestation goes around, okay? And this is where we need to appreciate that this is not just like a thing that happened. This is not just any other experience that they went through. And after 5 years, they'll still go back and, vie for the same seat, It's good that we appreciate that the manifestation and the impact of this particular loss can be so severe to a point whereby they even get to lose it. And some actually develop some mental health condition. Because remember, when you get to think about the loss of the monies that they had invested, it can be traumatizing for them. And if they are not supported in the best way, after 30 days, it's going to advance into the PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And this is where you hear so many of them talk about how helpless they feel, how low they feel, and some also have suicidal ideations. Why? Because for them, it is a loss. And that's why we need to appreciate. We could see most of them responding to this with a lot of shock and denial has been the first stage, that can be me, with the magnitude and the intensity of the campaign that I had put in place, I can't get 37 votes in my local...
Plus the opinion poll that said I had like 60%.
60%.
So what is happening?
It can be. And you see that there's a lot of shock into it, and they deny, they don't want to be part of it. And some actually faint, because they really want, they want to do away with that particular news that they have actually lost. You find that for those who are able to negotiate that particular stage, they get into the anger stage. And for them, there's a lot of anger into it. And they're angry with the voters themselves, because they promised them to vote them in. And I remember one of the presidential candidates saying that the reason why I never dished out some money is because I knew you guys were lying to me, you know. But we have seen people actually turning out to be so angry, and especially with their voters. Like in that case of that guy, the MCA, who took the tanks back, you know, and it's an indication of the frustration that they were going through. Some also get angry with the IBC itself. And we saw that in the Bomas, you know, when we had the announcement of the president-elect, and we saw some people causing chaos there. Why? Because for them, they could not fathom or even be in a position to actually contain themselves. And they were so angry, and it came out as, you know, as chaos for them. We've seen people who are also angry with themselves because they feel that they never did enough. And you see, this is where they do a lot of self-sabotage, you know, beating themselves up, thinking that they're not enough, and especially if they don't have some good support system, say from their families or the people around them. Some also get angry with their maker, you know, their God. You know, I did go to church. I contributed towards the building of that particular, you know, place of worship. And how don't you like reward me with this particular seed? And they become so angry and they stop going to church. All right. And for us who are their followers, we just say, you know, for them, they're full of themselves. They no longer, you know, want to participate with that. And yet this is an anger issue, and especially directed towards their church or even their maker. Once they're able to negotiate that particular stage, they get into the bargaining stage. And this is where we have the what if I did A, B, C, D, then the situation would be totally different. If we had more, you know, representatives talk about the agents in those polling stations, this would be a totally different experience. If we didn't have Chebukati as the chair of the IBC, perhaps this will be totally different. And there's a lot of, you know, the what if I did A, B, C, D, if we change the situation, this could have been in my favor if all this was done. And you see, with that, you find that they're trying to play back, seeing where they can actually correct themselves and to actually make things, you know, towards their favorable, towards their favor. The other thing would be, once they're able to negotiate the bargaining, they get into the depression stage. And this is where you find that most of them, they sink so low. Why? There's that particular person who took some loan, you know, and the banks or the financiers are actually on their neck, and they want the monies back. Now, since you didn't secure the position, the seat, we want the money back, all right? Some actually get into depression because they can't see life beyond that particular stage. For them, they grow so hopeless, so helpless. Remember, they had the title Mheshimiwa. They will be a commoner, you know. And for those who refer to them as Mheshimiwa, they're just making fun out of it, you know. And that makes them to feel so low. And actually, some get into a level whereby the suicidal ideation actually manifests in them. Why? Because for them, it's so painful, and they really don't want to deal with the pain. They want the pain to come to an end. And for them, suicide is the only way. And we have seen actually some get into the hospital. Why? Because when you get so low, then this actually it does affect your physical health. Why? It does compromise your immunity level, and you find that most of them, they get bedridden. Why? Because their physical health has actually given way, you know, and some diseases will come out of it. You can hear of psychosomatic conditions, pains in the body, you know. Some actually want to sleep from morning till the next day, you know. Some don't even take care of themselves, you know, in terms of grooming themselves, eating. They're no longer taking care of themselves. And some actually slip into abusing some substance as a way of coping with this. The other stage, it will be acceptance. And this is where a majority of the people, you know, long to get to. And it's quite unfortunate that a majority of the people, when they go through the losses, they never get to see the light at the end of the tunnel by accepting what has transpired. And that's why it's very important for us to actually offer the right kind of support to them. Why? Because if they don't get to that acceptance stage, then they will no longer be productive. Remember, beyond the titles of a political leader, beyond the title of a governor, beyond the title of the MP, they are humans with a life, all right? And probably most of them, they had some occupations. Talk about some career that they had. Some were farmers. You can hear of them saying that I will be going back to my farm. Some were working in the office. offices, practicing lawyers and all that. And if they're not supported in the right way, then they will not be productive as they were before the election. And this is where we see, when you're able to negotiate all these stages, as you get to the acceptance, it's very important for you to actually find meaning in life. Because most of the people, they don't get to that level. And this is where we say that it's good that we get to appreciate what has happened. And this should actually be an opportunity for you to pick, what you did right and also where you made some mistakes. Why? Because it is a learning experience for all of us. If I never got that seat, then that means probably there's something that my competitor or the other person who was able to get that seat did that I didn't. And this is where we ask people, are you going to come out of these situations better or bitter? Because you're seeing most of them coming out very bitter. And they're bitter with themselves, they're bitter with those around them, they're bitter with the world, they're bitter with Kenya, all right? And with that, then that tells you that they can be productive. If it's possible, it's very important that they find meaning in something that they can do. Remember, we're all gifted differently. I always say that you all have a seed of greatness within. And before the world told you, before the Kenyans told you that you're going to be their MP, their president, who are you? And if you're able to go back there, then it will be very much easier for you to, pick yourself up and proceed, continue with life as it was before. One of my friends says that if you fall, make sure that you fall looking up, because if you can look up, you can always get up.
Well said. And I mean, you've really given a detailed explanation of all these stages, and I'm so sure they've really been well understood, even just from what our viewers are listening to you and watching you say. But there's also so much we can talk about the candidates. Let's talk about the supporters. We have had a good number of them saying, if person X does not clinch that seat, then I'd rather not even be in this life.
Yes.
And matters to do with sports, politics, church, these are things that are so much into people's hearts. And we are also seeing that even in this election period. So then how do supporters deal with the loss that my candidate, my person has not won that MP seat, has not won that presidential seat, but life has to continue? Because again, at the end of the day, there can only be one winner.
Absolutely.
All of us can't really be in the presidency.
In the same seat,
we can't.
Yes.
So how do supporters even manage this as they move forward?
It's a very interesting scenario to be at. Why? Because when we have supporters, and I'm happy that you have brought up that element of the sports. We are quite into the English Premier League, and especially in this part of Africa. And many are supporting this particular team, like for me to be Liverpool. So we were really, given a beating yesterday night. And what happens is you find that most of the people, they really have this at heart. And the reason why you find that we have invested a lot of emotions into, say, politics and all that, sports, talk about the church, it's because we are all trying to seek some identity, all right? And when I identify myself with a certain party, then there's that sense of belonging. Because remember, we all have a need to belong, all right? And if you can't attach yourself to a certain group, and no wonder you find that you also have Liverpool Fans Football Club, in Kenya. Talk about the other, clubs that you're talking about. Because when you go there, they give you a sense of identity and you feel like you belong in a certain group. And this, in a way, amplifies your emotions in terms of making you feel good, right? And it can be addictive, to be part and parcel of such groups and organizations. Remember, even for the leaders, when they're on those podiums, as we celebrate them, as we call out their names, it's very addictive for them. And every other day they long for that medicine. They long for that sip, where we are calling out their names, celebrating them, and so on and so like. The same case applies to this particular follower. Every time they go for those campaign rallies and all that, they're there chanting the names, and for them, they feel that this is where I belong. And this is where we need to ask ourselves, have we found meaning in life, or is our life actually dictated by what is happening around? If Liverpool loses, then I can't be productive the following day. If my party leader doesn't clinch that top seat, then I cease to exist. And that tells you that is a very dangerous space to be at. Why? Because we need to learn to detach, all right? As much as we belong to a certain political party, And I'm not saying that it is bad, to support a certain party, because this is where we have visions, we have ideologies and all that. But it's always very important for you to actually detach from that. Get to differentiate yourself from the party. Get to differentiate yourself to too much religiosity. Why? Because you found that when you are so much into religion, into the practice, when you're so much into that footballing club, when you're so much into that political party, then you forget who you are, all right? And this is where we need to go back into that self-awareness. Get to understand, who am I? What is my purpose in this life? Is it that I can't be without my political leader? Remember, even with those packets of unga that we were getting, that happened, say, once every other week for 2 weeks. Okay, and when they get that position, they will never bring or rather put a meal on the table. You have to go back to your life. Why? Because even if the announcements were made today, even if we have a new president today being sworn in, life has to continue beyond that.
Whether it's one whom you supported
or the other.
Otherwise.
Okay, because if we don't do that, then it would be a long order for them and a tall order for us, and especially for these followers. And remember, the mob psychology plays a very big part here. Why? Because remember, we want to participate and belong to a certain group. So even our way of thinking is actually interfered with, and we are actually compromised in terms of how we make decisions. And this is why we are saying that it is very important for us to detach. And I'm happy, and especially with the families where you find that they're actually even supporting different parties, and they have no issue with that. Why? Because for them, it's an idea, it's a vision that is being shared by the leader, and when all that is said and done, we go back to our lives. And it's very important for us to also get to check where we are, as we talk about the loss and grief, and especially the stages that we are talking about. It's good even the followers to ask themselves, where am I? Am I at the denial, shock and denial? Am I still angry? Am I still bargaining? Am I depressed? Or have I accepted, the outcome of these results? If this is not the case, then we need to come up with, creative ways to maneuver and overcome some of these challenges. And remember, we don't go in a linear line. It's not linear in terms of getting all the way from the shock and denial to the acceptance. At times you may find yourself still, you have gotten into the acceptance, but when there's a trigger, you find yourself becoming angry, and especially to where you are. Okay, that happens, and it is allowed. But the question is, are you able to move beyond that? Yes.
And as we wind down, James, I'd just like to pick also your headline thoughts, because again, we saw NCIC as well as the church sort of coming together in collaboration to look for ways in which they could counsel, these leaders, and even perhaps even extend it to what you're talking about, the supporters. How far has this gone? And even as we move forward, is this the right step to just employ in our country, particularly in times of politics and elections like this?
And I'm happy that this is happening now, and especially where, as we talk about mental health related issues, and more so towards the leaders that we have. Because remember what happened with COVID-19, it actually exposed how broken the systems were. And this is just a confirmation that we need this kind of support more than ever. Why? Because we are actually affected by some of these experiences in a totally different way, and at times it does leave us in a state whereby we are not capable of advancing or even progressing in life. And as much as yes, we have some people out there, and I'm happy with what the church is doing, the proposal to have counselors coming together, therapists, to support the leaders, and especially those who lost the elections. I feel that that is a very important move. Why? Because when you look at this particular field, and especially psychology, mental health, we are still young, and we haven't appreciated. I've seen in other democracies, like we were saying earlier on, the ones that are really advanced, each family is attached to a psychologist. Each family has a family counselor. And this is where we need to appreciate that if we are not okay upstairs, if our mental well-being is not okay, then we can't even contribute to the growth of this particular nation. We need to take care of ourselves, and especially our emotions, our mental well-being, so that at least we're able to go back and lead a healthy life. So every other leader who is out there, and they might have lost, come to us. Don't feel shy. Don't feel like, you know, they are going to demean me. We are humans, and it's okay not to be okay. It's okay for you to go through what you went through, and it's okay for you to get support. It doesn't make you less of a human. Yes.
And a good place to end it, James. It's okay not to be okay.
Absolutely.
I've been speaking to James Mwangi, who is a counseling psychologist as well as a transformational coach, of course, talking to us about managing post-election grief and anxiety, given the fact that we are still in this moment and matters to do with elections, knowing fully well that we still have the case at the Supreme Court. Asante sana for your time.
Shukran sana. Thank you.
And a good place to end this conversation as well as Good Morning Kenya. Many thanks for watching. I'm Doreen Arange Okello.
Hivyo kumetokea nini hapa? 1, 2, 3. Mpo wengi sana.
Sisi ni panya, sisi ni panya.
Mmekuja kuchukua watoto wangu?
Hapana mama ndege, tulitaka kuelewa kwa nini unachukua mbegu kiasi kinachogawanyika kwa 2 tu.
Log on to the KBC website at www.kbc.co.ke to get the latest breaking news, entertainment, sports, politics, lifestyle or business trends from Kenya and around the world. Never miss new episodes from your favorite TV shows, reruns and movies. Just stream online or watch live on your YouTube channel at KBC Channel 1 TV shows. For the day's biggest stories, trustworthy news and family entertainment, log on to KBC Channel 1. Watch what you want anytime, anywhere.
Sometimes I wish I never left. Probably JJ would be at a better place right now.
And you were not really there when we needed a mother.
Kuna kitu inaitwa ndoto za mshana na dreams. So, jua kutofautisha.
Ukitaka ku make money on a side apart from this job, punguza mdomo.
Kunyamaza pia inakuwa ni gharama sana.
Unajua kuongea lugha ya pesa.
Hello?
I'm planning to call a board meeting.
She has already reached. Okay, let me look at the forms, then I'll get them to you via email.
How would you like working with us?
I'm not quite sure how that would work.
We are on the same side.
We're gonna need Millicent on our side.
Genova, you know what? The baby keeps kicking me these days. Sometimes I can feel his hands and his feet.
These tactics are unacceptable.
Split the troops. Half will go assist the flood victims. The other half will do as we planned before.
You allow the deaths of hundreds and thousands of avians on this land. And you worked with the Celestials to do it. You're wrong.